It's a beautiful madness inside my soul, and I can't stop thinking of.
What is going on, everyone? My name is Michael Tan, and I am doing another another reaction video from a request from a BKP. Second request. Oh, right. And this one's called Geography Now, because there's an exclamation mark, Philippines. So this one's another long one, so we'll get right into it, because again, I talk a lot. I talk too much. It's a curse, so I apologize. But this one, 19 minutes and 41 seconds. Remember to like, share, subscribe, because that's what you gotta do on YouTube. Alright? But no, you do whatever you want. It's all good. Alright, so let's get to it. I'm gonna press play. And let's go. Geography Now. Now, Philippines. Oh, okay. Press play.
If you don't know anything about Asia, the Philippines is like the jolliest of them all. They're just happy, fun, jolly people. And you know what? It's been 3 years.
I think we are.
I'm not taking this anymore. I've been pushed around. I've been threatened.
Don't bully.
I've been thrown into the dungeon. I've been
bully
the
him,
butt
man.
of all the jokes. I'm the Filipino one. This is my time. My time.
Who are these guys?
Welcome
Okay.
to the Philippines.
Thank you.
My
It's
turn.
good to be here.
Okay. It's time to learn geography now. Hey everyone,
This is
I'm
my
Ken,
type of
and as you
video.
know, I'm
Hey, Ken.
Filipino. Years ago, I was looking for a job and I saw this ad asking for a motion graphics animator on Craigslist. Paul and I literally met up at a Jollibee for my interview. He said I was his top 3 candidates.
Jollibee.
In reality, there were only 3 candidates that applied, so technically I didn't lie,
Hot
but
dogs.
yeah, the other
Hot
2 people
dogs.
kind of sucked, so yeah. Oh, and back then, I had this weird mustache and Paul's hair was basically this thing. Ken and I have been
That was
talking
an
for a
ice
long
cube.
time, and we agreed Ken definitely has to be in this episode. You've come so far from that Craigslist Jollibee interview, you've earned this. Thanks. Handa na? Magsimula.
Huh?
The Philippines is an interesting country because there's sort of a dichotomy between labels. If you ask a Filipino if they consider themselves Asian or Pacific Islanders, you might get contrasting answers. What do you consider yourself, Ken? I always thought Pacific Islanders sounded kind of cool, so I usually stuck with that. So first of all, the Philippines is a tropical archipelago of over 7,000 islands, about 2,000 of which are inhabited, and it is the largest island nation
Okay.
without any land borders or shared island territory with another nation. The country is located in Southeast Asia, straddling the
Asia,
Philippine Sea in the
Philippine
north,
Sea,
the
and
South
China
China Sea in
Sea.
the west, and the Sulu and Celebes Sea in the south. Just to skip away lies the
Alright.
island of Borneo, which is split amongst 3 nations, at the closest point only about 22 miles or 40 kilometers away from the nearest island that belongs to the Philippines.
Oh,
Now, in
wow.
general, many people will refer to one of the 3 main island cluster regions that people are a part of. There are Luzon in the north, where you can find the capital Manila, and where half of the population lives, Visaya in the
Half
center,
the
and Mindanao
population
in
of
the
the
south.
Philippines
Otherwise,
is
the nation
Manila.
is made up of 17 regions, one of which is autonomous, the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao. This place has a high level of self-rule and autonomy appointed by the government. We'll explain more about this later. If you want to be
Right.
absolutely technical, Quezon City, a bit north of
Quezon.
Manila, is the largest city in the Philippines. However,
Quezon
the
City is the
surrounding
largest
16 towns
city.
and cities by Manila are called Manila Metro, or the National Capital Region, and they basically act as one unit. Otherwise, the largest city outside of the NCR are Davao City in
Davao?
Mindanao and Cebu in the Visayas. Manila has the largest
Visayas.
and busiest airport,
That was in
Pinoy
the-
Aquino International
the
Airport,
ads.
which is basically the hub that services the entire NCR. They also have
Yep.
the busiest shipping port at the Port of Manila.
Port
Otherwise,
of
the second largest
Manila.
airport is Cebu Mactan International, and rounding up for third place is Davao City Francisco
Davao.
Bangoy International.
Davao
In terms
City.
of land transport, though, the Philippines is well connected amongst the islands. In fact, the longest highway is the Pan-Philippine Highway that stretches about 3,500 kilometers across the country and connects Luzon, Samar,
Jeez.
Liet, and Mindanao with underground tunnels connecting them. Finally, the Philippines has only 2 territorial
That's
disputes.
mad.
The state of Sabah in Malaysia
Sabah.
and North Borneo. The territory once had been part of the Sultanate of Sulu, a Muslim state that existed the 15th century to the 20th century, and that's a whole other story. As for the other dispute, as we mentioned quite a few times already, this whole area known as the Spratly Islands is a
Spratly
complete
Islands.
mess. If you don't know anything about this place, it basically goes like this. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Get 'em, Philippines!
What
Get 'em!
claims in the area, this big one right here is China's. Like,
Don't be
they
racist.
just kind of pretty much went for all of it. This has even
Racism
led to
is
a few
never good.
skirmishes between nations that have built patrol stations on the island. And when they spot a ship that gets too close, things can get kind of ugly. It's kind of like this. Hey, what are you doing? This is my area. I'm just doing some fishing.
You sunk my battleship.
G52.
You sunk my battleship.
Research here, you know?
Why do you have a shovel then? Are you building something? Or?
Well, technically there's no land protruding from this reef.
Alright, he's
so,
jacked.
there's
Who's
no
this
land.
guy?
So you're just gonna build your own land?
For
Shovel.
research.
Anyway,
Here are some notable spots of
Get some
interest.
muscles
Fort
happening.
Santiago,
Magellan's Cross,
San Agustin Church,
Sagada Hanging Coffins,
Aguinaldo
Ooh.
Shrine,
Cebu's Philippine Taoist Temple.
Well, we're just gonna go past that like it never happened? Come on, man.
your own land.
For Temple.
Shrine of Mama Mary in Tagaytay,
The Lapu
No.
Shrine.
Luneta Park,
MacArthur Landing Site.
Banawi Rice Terraces.
The Malacanang Palace.
Okay, I've moved on
has
from
many
it.
historical
Let's
and
just keep
colonial
moving. I wanted to see the
Various
coffins
national
hanging
museums of
off the
history
side of the
and
cliff.
arts.
Tons of amusement parks.
And that's not even including all the natural wonders of the Philippines. They have an underground river.
The
Wait, the
most
Princessa,
amazing,
that's where I was.
beautiful
Oh,
beaches
there
in the
too.
universe.
Hills that look like lumps of
I saw
chocolate.
And there's an
the,
island in a
the
lake, in an island,
signs
in a
for
lake,
chocolate
in an
hills.
island.
We should hang out sometime.
Yeah, when you have
Beautiful.
7,000 tropical islands
Beautiful.
and a volcanic archipelago, chances are things can get pretty crazy landscape-wise. Which brings us to...
ads. You gonna do me like this?
Files of budget
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's skip. Boom.
The
Physical
actual
geography.
land of the Philippines is the biggest treasure you will find here for sure. Anyway, the Philippines lies on the Ring of Fire and is specifically on a tectonic
That
plate
Ring of
named
Fire,
after the
it just
Philippine
sounds
plate.
deadly.
95% of the land is made up of the 11 largest islands.
The country was essentially formed through the tectonic activity between the Philippine, Manila, and the Mindanao Trenches. The Mindanao being the second deepest in the world.
Mindanao.
This makes the country
Mindanao.
susceptible
That's what I was trying to say in the
strong earthquakes and minor
tourism.
volcanic activity.
About
Wake up in the
53 active
Philippines.
volcanoes can be found in all of these largest islands, except for Palawan. The most famous
Palawan.
and picturesque of these include these three.
See this
Martin
island here,
Tabo.
Camiguin? It actually has more volcanoes than towns on it.
Camiguin? Camiguin?
7 versus 5, making it the place with the most number of volcanoes per square kilometer in the world.
In fact,
Hey.
the tallest peak in the Philippines is
Wow.
a potentially active volcano, Mount Apo, located in
Mount
the South
Apo. Do
Mindanao
people
area.
live
The country
around
has
Mount
numerous
Apo?
mountain ranges and highlands that dip into the fertile valleys, the largest range being the Cordillera Range in the North Luzon area,
Cordillera.
looking into the Sierra Madre Range on the east
Sierra
side, which
Madre.
feeds the longest river of the country, the Cagayan, that flows into the
Cagayan.
Cagayan Valley.
This valley, along with the central Luzon Valley, are the largest arable croplands and produce nearly all of the rice in the Philippines.
The Visayas
Oh.
are known for growing the most sugarcane, whereas Mindanao specializes
Visayan.
in coconut.
Is that,
and
that's
fruit
another
production.
language?
Back in Luzon,
Visaya,
you can find
isn't
the
it?
largest
Or
lake
is
in the
it
country, Lake Laguna Dabay, which is actually in the
Lake
caldera
Laguna
of the
Dabay.
volcano.
The lake has a weird detached island called Talim and is actually drained by the Pasig River that flows through
Pasig,
the capital
Pasig.
Manila.
And
It's not a
finally,
drink?
the country is the heart of typhoon territory. They can come at
Ooh.
almost any time of the year. The nation will experience on average about 20 of the turbulent storms annually, which often flood to their
20
many river
storms a
systems.
year.
But yeah, if anything, Filipinos are the most
Like
cyclone-adapted
typhoons.
people on Earth. They're used to it. The water has always been kind of their thing. Swimming, sailing, fishing.
Just not exactly quite diving into it.
Otherwise, the Philippines is one of the 17 mega-diverse nations on Earth.
Got
They
him.
have the largest level of marine biodiversity in the world within their waters and the highest rate of
What is that,
animal
monkey?
discovery on the planet, with 16 new mammal species that were discovered in
What
the
is that?
past decade alone.
They have everything from
The longest snake in the world, the reticulated
Get outta here.
python.
the largest fish in the world,
Whale
whale
sharks.
7 of the 8 known species of giant clam are found
They look like undies. Or female underwear.
in the Philippines.
The world's smallest hoofed animal, the Philippine
Mouse deer. Look at its nose. And its eyes. Still cute though. It doesn't matter. You wouldn't want to eat it or
mouse
anything.
deer.
And their national bird is the
The
largest
Philippine
eagle in
eagle.
the world.
Oh, okay.
Economically
Slick
speaking,
back
the
hair.
Philippines is considered a newly
Okay.
industrialized nation. It is transitioning out of becoming an agricultural-based system to a service and manufacturing-based one. They have like 3 of the top 10 largest malls on Earth.
SM Mega Mall. I've been to
Wait,
the
I'm
Mega
taking
Mall.
the top
Mall
spot
Asia.
soon.
They're one of the
Mall.
fastest growing economies in Asia, and as the 34th largest economy in the world, their GDP purchasing
2
power
trillion
surpassed the $2 trillion
GDP.
mark.
PPP.
Basically, the Philippines is definitely becoming a key power player in the world stage. It's like,
We're so rich!
someday. For what it's worth, though,
I'm with
mining,
you.
fishing, and agriculture are strong industries as well. They are currently the world's largest nickel and abaca or Manila hemp
Abaca.
producers, and the second largest coconut producer after Indonesia.
Tourism, though, is another important industry, taking up about 8% of their GDP, employing over 3 million people.
And now, Food! Now, in the Philippines, every region has their own specialty and culinary strange.
Yeah, every dish
Let
looks
me
like
listen.
a berry exploded.
Lots of dishes you can eat kumakain kamay, or eat with your hands.
Yeah, pretty much everything has
Kumakain.
rice, and then you're gonna get a lot of grease and salt and vinegar and a lot of like, I don't care if that looks like it goes there or not. I'm
That's
still gonna
how
eat
I
it anyway, right,
The
Ken?
3
Yeah,
fingers
that's
and the
Filipino
thumb.
food.
Yeah.
There's really no official national dish, but 3 meals that are well known for are adobo, lumpia,
Adobo.
and sinigang.
And
Sinigang!
the non-Muslim part,
That's my favorite.
lechon is a huge deal.
There are also
Lechon.
dishes like
Lechon
Tagalog
baboy.
steak,
tinola,
pansit lukluk,
kare-kare,
Kare-kare.
sisig,
tapsilong,
balut,
kinilaw.
and my favorite Filipino
I
dish,
can't deal with balut, I'm
balado.
sorry.
Put some nice little lemon juice on it. I actually got this at Jollibee.
Jollibee.
You know what Jollibee is? It's like the most popular fast food chain in the Philippines. It's like if McDonald's and KFC adopted a Filipino baby, and they even added spaghetti to their menu for some reason.
Otherwise,
If you
Filipinos
know,
are dessert
you know.
experts. They love their ube,
Ube.
ube ice cream, ube bread, ube pie, ube cakes.
Oh, they also have like sapin, and cassava
Sapin,
cakes.
sapin,
Those are the best
cassava
desserts, in my
cakes.
opinion.
They also have halo-halo,
Halo-halo,
leche
leche
flan,
flan,
turok, pandan, and puto.
Puto,
If
no
you're
mix that all the
Latin
time.
American or Spanish, you may notice some of those
Give
foods
me the
are
belly.
found in Latin cuisine, and there's a reason for
Bro.
that.
Yeah, we'll explain that in...
We all have different ads in different countries, yeah?
Only in the
Because
Philippines can you
I feel
find
like
people that have
this
Spanish
would have been
names,
normal.
speak English, celebrate in
Let's get
Austronesian
back to it,
culture,
sorry.
and cook Chinese.
General MacArthur once said, "Give me 1,000 Filipino soldiers, and I will conquer the world."
Yeah, for some reason, Filipinos are like the best friends of Asia. Filipinos
Okay.
still have the best attitudes and smiles. They even give time off felony sentences if the prisoners volunteer to take part
Hey,
in
even though
Michael
Dancing
Jackson's
Thriller?
performance to the public.
But
Yeah.
we're getting ahead of ourselves. First, the graph. The country has about 110 million people and is the 8th most populated country in Asia and the
Okay.
12th most populated country in the world.
There are about 175 ethno-linguistic people groups in the Philippines, the majority of whose languages are Austronesian.
Of these groups, the
Austronesian.
largest ones are the Tagalog at about 28%, 13% are Cebuano, 9% are Ilocano, and 8% are Bisaya. The rest are made up of other groups plus a small
28% is Tagalog. So this is where I'm learning things because I thought Tagalog was like the major language there. But 13% Cebuano, Ilocano, 9%, Bisaya, 8%, and 42% Udao. Wow.
small
Okay.
minority of non-native citizens, mostly Asians and Americans.
It's important to note, though,
What
that the
about
Philippines has about 10.2 million people overseas worldwide. It is one of the largest diaspora populations, spanning over 100 countries.
okay.
The U.S. alone has about 4 million.
I mean, they were at one point colonized by the U.S., so go figure.
Hmm.
They use the Filipino peso as their currency. They use the types A, B, and C plug outlets,
Peso,
and they drive on the
peso,
right side.
pera, o
and keep in mind,
bayong.
the word Pinoy is synonymous with
Bayong!
something that is Filipino. You
Pinoy.
might see that used a lot.
Now back to the ethnic groups thing. Since there are over 175 of them, you would think, how do they all communicate?
Well, the Philippines has 2 official languages. English, which makes them the 5th most English-speaking nation on Earth, and Filipino, which is the standardized version of Tagalog. The Philippine Tagalog language spoken today is very different from pure Tagalog. It actually has about
Is it really?
14% Spanish, 10% Malay, and 7% English mixed into it with a slew of other borrowed loanwords. You can see the influence in words like pintalador, guapo,
Pintalador,
zapatos,
guapo.
and
I've heard
pamilya.
guapo before.
Often Filipinos
Guapo,
also
guapo.
consider it with a P.
Or a V with a B.
Or
B.
a B with a B.
Yeah, same with
Mikey, do you want some BB? Like BB is the B,
Minimal
Victorian
consonants.
bitter.
Yay!
Oh, and fun fact, Ken taught me this. In Tagalog, you can actually say an entire conversation just using the syllable ba. For example,
Ba, ba ba,
Ba ba.
ba ba, ba ba ba,
Ba ba ba.
ba ba,
Ba ba ba.
ba ba ba, ba ba,
ba,
ba
ba,
Ba.
ba, ba.
ba ba ba.
Well, that
Ba.
was fun. Otherwise, in
Ba.
the Visayas and Mindanao area, Cebuano is a common language, as well as the
Cebuano.
other regional tongues like Waray and Daboeno.
They even have the only Spanish-based Creole in Asia,
Oh,
Chavacano,
nice.
located in Zamboanga City. Now, the Philippines is
Zamboanga.
unique in that over the past few centuries, they've gone through 3 periods that shaped their identity.
Before European intervention, the Philippines has
Just
had a
straight
multitude of early
survivors.
civilizations that built kingdoms
Just
and
straight
dynasties like the Tondo,
gangster.
the Namayan, the Pangasinan, and the Sulu Sultanate.
Many of these kingdoms had their
Okay.
own indigenous writing system, such as the Babayan, Buhi, Eskayan, and Kulitan.
Genetically,
Kulita.
Filipinos are classified as belonging to the broader Austronesian people.
Austronesian.
group,
I've
with the
never
closest
heard of
cousins being
Austronesian.
Micronesians like the Mariana Islanders, Guam, and Palau.
Although over the
Wow.
years, many people have mixed, and today it is speculated that somewhere around 1/5 or more of the population may have some kind of Chinese ancestry. After the Spanish came in, they adopted many of the customs, traditions, and cultural traits which have Spanish roots. Their own country is named after Spanish King Philip. The biggest trait though, would be the fact that they are predominantly Catholic, at about 81% of the population adhering to the faith.
The rest are mostly Protestant, with a small Muslim minority in the South Mindanao area.
The Philippines is the largest Christian nation in Asia, 5th largest Christian nation on Earth, and 3rd largest Catholic nation after Brazil and Mexico.
They have so many holidays and festivals devoted to Catholic themes, like All Saints Day,
because
Holy
we
Week,
like
and
to
Easter, and
party.
Christmas.
The Philippines has the longest Christmas season out of anywhere else on Earth.
Okay, so now we're just gonna rapid fire a list of 12 fun cultural facts for the Philippines.
Philippines
let's go.
have a ton of superstitions. For example, whistling at night will turn you into a werewolf.
For formal occasions, you may see Filipinos wearing traditional barongs for men and Maria Clara or mestiza dresses for women.
Okay.
There are many other traditional costumes and customs for the other 170.
Look at those tattoos.
Filipinos wearing traditional barongs for men and Maria Clara or mestiza dresses for women.
There are many other traditional...
Boom. That's gangster. Right around the nipple. That would friggin' hurt. They are tatted up. Okay.
Traditional
I'm
costumes
not saying
and
nothing about
customs
them.
for the other 170.
They gonna get me.
Too many to cover, but it goes everywhere. From feathers, coconut fibers, hair dresses, tribal tattoos, and so on.
Speaking of which, the Philippines dominates major international beauty pageants with a grand total of 15.
Oh. No words.
Victories at the Miss Universe, Miss World, Miss International, and Miss Earth competitions.
Basketball and boxing are the most popular sport by far. They have the oldest basketball league in Asia and the second oldest in the world after the United States. And come on, we all know Pacquiao.
The Philippines is the leading nation to train and export nurses abroad. It's been said at one point, every Filipino has their should I just drop everything and become a nurse moment in their life crisis.
That's a fact. I've had those. And the word balikbayan means returning,
Balikbayan.
returning family. It is used when someone
Balikbayan.
comes back
I'm
from
gonna write that
expat
down.
work abroad.
You might hear the honorific title of po or popo for elders, and a lot of people often raise the backs of the hands of their elders to their forehead as a sign of respect and say, bless.
In the Philippines, you have your name, and you have your Pinoy nickname, and they get really weird and creative. Pepsi, Bing Bong, Jelly Boy, Pinky, Bum Bum, and Earl.
Every Filipino on every island in every region can tell you Filipinos are obsessed with karaoke. The first karaoke machine was actually patented by a Filipino, Roberto del Rosario, even though some Japanese people invented it. He patented it.
Obviously, that means music is a big deal in the Philippines. Besides taking modern cues from American pop, they also have traditional styles. Instruments include things like gutyapi, gimbal, kubing, and togali.
In addition, there are many different styles of dance, but the most famous one considered the national dance is tinikling, a dance done between two pairs of perpendicular bamboo poles that are clapped together as percussion tools, and the dancers must weave their feet in and out in the spaces before getting hit or tripped.
Now, on a bit of a more objective note, we do have to talk about some of the controversies.
The Philippines is beautiful, but if you've been keeping up with current events, they do have their fair share of issues that have made headlines. We don't sugarcoat everything here.
Human trafficking, whether into the sex industry, slavery, or organ smuggling, has been a problem in certain areas. And even though anti-trafficking acts have been passed by the government, enforcement has not always been on par.
The drug trade has also been a major inconvenience for decades, affecting millions of people in the country. This has led to the new controversial laws instituted by President Duarte, which encouraged the public to seek bounty in exchange for hunting down drug pushers. Many have died in the process.
And finally, you have the Moro conflict, an insurgency in the predominantly Muslim Mindanao region, which sought to take parts of Eastern Malaysia and break away through conflict. The fight has been going on for nearly half a century, and now it's just ending at the turn of the 21st century. Kind of. For what
I remember. Here you go, story time with Michael. The first time I ever went to the Philippines, I just went to the normal shopping centre. I don't think it was like the Mall of Asia or anything like that, but just a normal shopping centre. And there was this dude. He was probably would have been about this tall on me, but he had a shotty. I think it was a shotgun. Not too familiar with guns, but he was holding one of the biggest guns I have ever seen in my life. I was like, I'm not going to buy these. I'll put that back. Have a good day.
Philippines, everyone is family at the end. You don't have to be related to anyone to call someone ate or
Ate,
kuya.
kuya.
Just a word, bayanihan,
Ate.
which is something like helping one another through community spirit without expecting anything. In any case, we gotta finish off the segment with History.
Austronesians.
Tribal kingdoms and sultanates.
This guy came to the islands.
Catholicism comes in.
Lapu-Lapu and Magellan
Lapu-Lapu.
dies in battle.
5 Spanish dudes follow through.
They finally become a colony of Spain.
The galleon trade.
British Philippines.
And then back to Spain. The Treaty of Paris.
Philippine Revolution.
The Spanish-American War.
First Philippine Republic.
Okay.
American War.
American occupation.
World War II, Japan invades.
American pushes them back.
Finally, Philippine independence.
Ferdinand Marcos turned from president to dictator.
Martial law.
This guy gets killed because he was against the regime.
People Power Revolution in 1986.
Growth from agricultural society to an industrial one.
And here we are today. And now we finish off with the notable famous people condensed. Some famous people you guys, the Pinoy geography suggested we mention in this episode include
Lapu-Lapu.
Jose
Lapu-Lapu.
Rizal, these two saints.
Melchora Aquino.
Manuel L. Quezon.
Lacan Dula. Josefa Yanes Escoda. And Vicente Lim.
Carlos Peña Romulo.
And all the Miss Universe winners. And there's a ton of Americans with Filipino or partial Filipino descent.
Yeah, you can see there's
Enrique Iglesias.
I can be your hero, baby.
Hey, Dave Bautista, Vanessa Hudgens, Jasmine Trias, Bruno Mars is Filipino, Apple de App, Black Eyed Peas. And the back keeps running. But Bautista, but okay. Vanessa Hudgens, give me a call, girl. All right, we're both Filipino. We have something in common.
Ton of Americans with
let's
Filipino
go.
or partial Filipino descent.
Yeah, you can see there's lots of American Filipinos. Those two get along pretty tight.
We'll explain more on how that happened
After the ad. Boom.
in
Friend zone.
Because of the long history in the Philippines being colonized by 2 major Western powerhouses, it would make sense that it would have ties with the outside world in many different ways.
For friends, the Philippines is generally close with all the ASEAN nations and does great
ASEAN.
business with them.
ASEAN's actually a
Indonesia
thing.
and Malaysia, their closest
ASEAN.
neighbors.
The Marshall Islands, Palau, and the federal states of Micronesia are all cousin countries, many of which
Okay.
have Filipino migrants in them. And they all share the same history of being former U.S. territories and U.S.-influenced states.
Of course, Spain will always be in the back of their minds as the former colonizer that they gained much influence from. Although Filipinos are not considered Latino, the Spanish and many
Latino.
Latin Americans kind of see them as like the adopted Asians that totally fit in their family. It's like, come on, you're Catholic, you eat flan, every 5th word you speak is Spanish, you're basically one of us.
Interestingly enough, the relationship with Mexico has historically been always strong. The Philippines was ruled under a Mexico-based viceroyalty of New Spain. The Manila galleons were Spanish trading ships, which for 2.5 centuries linked the Philippines with Mexico across the Pacific Ocean,
Jeez.
making 1 or 2 round-trip voyages per year between the ports
Imagine
of Acapulco
doing that
and
on a
Manila.
boat.
And Mexican traditions were brought in, like the Day of the Dead and
I'm not thinking of
Chaparrado.
anything
When it comes to
worse.
their best friends, however, most Filipinos would probably say, even though colonial years were a little bit bumpy, ultimately the USA and South Korea.
South Korea was one of their closest best friends from the 20th century on. World War II really bonded with them after the
Handshakes.
Japanese occupation years, and they supported each other diplomatically.
Koreans are the top #1 tourist demographic that visit the Philippines. Koreans kind of admire the
Koreans.
fact that even though they were both influenced by the US, Filipinos speak better English, whereas Filipinos practically obsess over Korean products and media.
Us.
That's why we're...
These guys are pretty funny, but-
since they became their colony in 1898. The US also
1898.
had the largest number of overseas Filipinos at over 4 million, most of
4
whom
million.
live on the West Coast states like Hawaii and California. They are one of the
Hawaii.
oldest Asian partners of the US. They have a mutual defense treaty, and they are the largest export partner and second largest import after China.
Man, there is so much happening in the Philippines.
Like
they've done a lot.
There, and Gallup polls have shown that the USA is favored on average by over 90% of the people asked, making it one of the most pro-American countries on the planet. And Ken,
Okay.
take the conclusion.
In conclusion, if you enter a room full of Asians, you definitely know who the Filipinos are. While everyone's so uptight, we're the ones singing karaoke and somersaulting. You just feel the energy of a Filipino. There's a touch of Latin flavor with American pop undertones. But in the
Okay.
end, no matter what island, you're immediately considered part of the Pinoy family.
Ken,
Pinoy.
one of my best friends, I love you, man. I'm so proud of you.
Pinoy.
Thanks. Stay tuned. Poland is coming up next.
Thank you. That was sick. All right. Well, a lot of information to take in. I probably will have to watch it a couple of times for it all to sink in. But I will always remember Balikbayan. Returning home family. Well, that's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Yeah, like, comment, and subscribe because I'm learning a lot, actually, about the Philippines over the past week or so, and it's been phenomenal. Thank you very much, BKP, for requesting Geography Now Philippines. He did say it was more fun to watch, and he did not lie. So, thank you very much again, BKP. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.